Who doesn't love a good game show? The public seem to love watching other people win or lose thousands on just the spin of a wheel or the press of a button. But sometimes things aren't always as innocent as they seem, whether it's plain old-fashioned cheating or something far more sinister. In this video, we'll be taking a look at 5 cases where the game show contestants have hit the headlines for reasons other than winning. Being a fan of top 5s, you've probably got a knack for late-night investigations in all corners of the internet. Whether it's deep dives into the unknowns of the universe or binging the newest mystery thriller series on your favourite streaming service, you also spend a good amount of time online. But what if we told you there was a safer way to do so? In addition to an opportunity to access the web from any location in the world, no strings attached. With Surfshark VPN, these incredible possibilities are delivered directly to you in the simplest ways possible, letting you evolve into a top-tier internet sleuth. One of Surfshark's greatest keys is its ability to unlock access to servers from anywhere on Earth. Whether it be the United States, the United Kingdom, or even East Asia, surf the web in any country in any time zone. This means your favourite television shows and digital programming that's only available in certain territories are now available on your own streaming service accounts like Netflix or Amazon Prime. Just switch servers on the VPN to a country of your choice, and entirely new libraries will be at your viewing disposal, on an unlimited number of devices too, never leaving you short on options. There's also an additional level of security as well. If protecting your data and information is a priority, Surfshark VPN uses industry-leading encryption to secure your data, keeps your browser history confidential, and automatically blocks over 1 million known virus hosting websites and other phishing threats. It may sound too convenient to be true, but we promise that's just the tip of the iceberg. For a limited time during the Black Friday and holiday period, from now until December 31st, use our code TOP5s upon checkout to unlock a brilliant 83% discount, along with a new and improved 4 months free and a 30-day money-back guarantee, easily the best price on the VPN market. So what are you waiting for? Grab your magnifying glass, shut those Venetian blinds, and become a better sleuth with Surfshark VPN. And now, if you haven't already done so, hit those lights, sit back, and enjoy. John Cooper and Bullseye. In the 1970s, John Cooper won £90,000 in a spot the ball competition, but squandered the money away on his gambling addiction. Needing to find another way to fund his habit, he turned to violent crime and robbery. In December 1985, at the age of 41, John Cooper burgled a farmhouse in Pembrokeshire, Wales. The house belonged to millionaire farmer Richard Thomas, who lived there with his sister Helen. Cooper callously shot them both dead with his gunshot before setting fire to the farm in a bid to destroy any evidence. Despite extensive police work, the murders went unsolved. Less than 4 years later, Cooper appeared on the British game show Bullseye. At the time, pub darts was extremely popular in Britain, and the ITV network decided to take advantage of this and devised a Sunday afternoon game show involving throwing darts. And at the height of its popularity, Bullseye was attracting around 17 million viewers. Contestants had to throw darts at a standard match play dartboard in order to win their partner the chance to answer questions and collect money. The couple with the most money at the end of 3 rounds would then go through to play the star prize board and ultimately take the star prize gamble. Take a look at this footage of Cooper with the host Jim Bowen, and just think about how eerie it is that this man had killed 2 people and got away with it at this point.
Oh yes, the scuba diving.
The scuba diving. Well, apparently it's the place to do it down there, isn't it?
Well, we've got the deep water where you can sort of swim over mountains and all sorts.
Just give them a round of applause.
Earlier, Cooper had joked with Bowen about his life on the Pembrokeshire coast and about his strange hobby. But little did anyone know at the time of his appearance in May 1989, Cooper was already a double murderer, and just a month after his appearance on this show, he struck again. In June 1989, Gwenda and Peter Dixon were enjoying a camping holiday on the coast of Pembrokeshire, and as their holiday drew to an end, they took one last walk along the coastal path, but never returned. Their tied-up bodies were later found, but they'd been shot in the face at point-blank range. Peter Dixon's bank card was missing, and in the days following the murder, it was used at ATMs in Pembroke and Haverfordwest by a scruffy and wild-looking man. However, despite a photo fit being widely circulated and police interviewing thousands of witnesses, they were unable to find the murderer, as there was very little forensic evidence available at the time. In 1998, Cooper was convicted of separate offences of armed robbery and 30 burglaries and was sentenced to 16 years imprisonment, so at least he was off the streets. But in 2008, he was released on licence. Around the same time, police reopened 3 previously unsolved and unlinked crimes. One was the Dixon murders, another the murder of the Thomas siblings, and the third was an attack on a group of 15 and 16-year-old teenagers in 1996 who had been threatened with a shotgun and robbed before one of the girls was indecently assaulted and the other raped. After 2 years of investigating, the police now believed that these crimes were committed by the same person. After suspecting that Cooper was involved, they were amazed to see the similarities between the artist's sketch of the Dixon suspect and the footage of Cooper appearing on Bullseye. The DNA and fibre evidence that linked Cooper to all 3 crime scenes was overwhelming and included a pair of shorts found in his house that had been taken from Mrs. Dixon and wore for years as a bizarre trophy. After a 9-week trial, he was found guilty of 4 murders and rape. The judge called Cooper a dangerous and evil man, and he was given 4 life sentences. Herb Stempel and 21. In 1956, the top 5 highest rated American programs on TV were all quiz shows, and Dan Enright and his partner Jack Barry produced several of these type of shows together, including Back That Fact, Tic-Tac-Doe, and Concentration, and were responsible for the quiz show 21. The scoring system for this game was similar to that of the card game Blackjack. The quizzes would both be placed in a separate isolation booth and asked questions, and the answers would be scored with between 1 and 11 points. However, the first episode was a flop. It was deemed boring, as neither contestant could answer the questions, and the backers of the show were furious, ringing Enright and Barry, who was the host, to warn them that things had to improve or they would cancel the show. So Enright and Barry had to come up with a solution. So they decided to fix the show, but not in a conventional way. Herb Stempel had already auditioned for the show and scored the highest of any other auditionees, and Barry and Enright thought he would be the perfect contestant to help them revive the show, so they arranged a meeting and offered him $25,000 to help them rig it. Stempel then underwent extensive coaching, and he was told which questions to answer correctly or incorrectly, as well as how to behave. At the time, Stempel was married to a wealthy woman, so he was not short of money, but Enright didn't want the viewers to know that, so he created a sob story for Stempel, and he was told to pretend that he was penniless and working odd jobs to put himself through school. He was also made to wear a baggy old suit, a shirt with a frayed collar, and an awful tie. He was even given an old watch to wear that ticked so loudly it could be heard over the microphones. This was all to help build tension. Their plan worked, and Stempel appeared on the show and won, because the winner stayed on for the next show. Stempel managed to accumulate winnings of $69,500, although he was warned that he would not be able to keep all his winnings, and he was also made to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Stempel was happy to continue the charade, as he had been promised a slot on a panel show once his stint on 21 was over. However, after a few weeks, the show was becoming too predictable and ratings were falling, so it was decided that a new, more well-groomed and cultured contestant called Ingram Van Doren would be brought in to beat Stempel and take his place. Doren taught English at Columbia University and was well aware of the fraud. The two men kept the tension going by competing for several weeks, always tying at 21 points each. The good-looking and charming Van Doren was catapulted to fame and soon became the viewers' favourite, so eventually Stempel was told to throw the game and forfeit his $100,000 winnings in front of the 50 million viewers that watched the show. Van Doren went on to win $129,000, and it was him who was given a lucrative 3-year contract by NBC to appear as a presenter on various programs, and Stempel was offered nothing. When he heard this, he blew the whistle on the whole thing. The revelation caused a massive scandal, as it exposed the fact that nearly every US game show at the time was doing the same thing. The scandal resulted in Congress making an amendment to the Communications Act, and it's now illegal to fix game shows. Take a look at these 3 fraudsters at work on the show.
Can you hear me, Mr. Van Doren?
Yes, I can.
Very good. I have your studio on. Your studio is on, Herb. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. Now we're going to go on trying to get 21. I'll be back to you in just a moment, Herb. Well, Mr. Van Doren, I guess you know pretty well from last week how to play this game. You've got to try to score 21 points. You do it by answering questions that have a point value from 1 to 11. The high point questions are much more difficult than the lower point questions, and you'll tell us how much you know about the category by grading yourself from 1 to 11. The first category, the Civil War. How much do you know about it? You tell us from 1 to 11.
That's an awful big subject. I'll try for 8 points.
For 8 points. Because of a disagreement with his commanding general, Ulysses Grant was virtually placed under arrest for a brief time early in 1862. Who was the commanding general of the Union Army at that time?
Oh, yes. I know his name, this fellow's. Halleck. General H.W. Halleck.
You're right, and you have 8 points.
Michael Larson and Press Your Luck. The game show Press Your Luck first appeared on the American network CBS in September 1983. On the show, contestants answered trivia questions to earn the chance to win a spin on the electronic game board. The board had cash rewards, as well as other prizes, such as vacations or jewelry. The player with the most money at the end of the episode would keep that money, and then return the following day to play for even more. But the 18-square board also contained penalties called a whammy, which if landed on, would take away all of your accumulated money. A random light moved around the board rapidly, and contestants had to hit their buzzer to stop it, making sure that they landed on the prizes and not the whammy. Soon after the game show first aired, viewer Michael Larson began to videotape the program, so that he could spend time studying the sequence of the board. He soon realized that rather than being completely random, the light moved around the board, using only 5 repeated patterns, and he was able to memorize these patterns and practice his theory using his TV remote control at home. Larson was so confident that he could beat the board that he saved up enough money to fly out to Los Angeles so that he could audition for the show. He got on and followed the method he had practiced at home and was able to collect $104,950. At the time, this was the largest one-day total ever won on a game show, and because of Larson's winning streak, the normal 30-minute episode ran over and had to be split into 2 episodes. Take a look at this.
I need lots of money, come on! Go! Stop!
Stop! At
I'm going.
Go.
Stop!
Stop! At 1,250 again. 2,500, Michael. First place.
The producers were astounded and were convinced he was cheating, but after reviewing the footage, they couldn't find nothing in the rules of the show that could disqualify him, and he was allowed to keep his winnings. Larson returned to Ohio with his prize money, but instead of being content with his haul, a year after his win, he entered another competition running on a local radio show in a bid to win a further $30,000. For this competition, competitors had to match one of their own $1 bill serial number with a random number read out on air. So Larson began to withdraw all of his winnings out to the bank in $1 bills in the hope of finding a match. He was unsuccessful, and although he redeposited half of the money, he lost about $50,000 when his house was burgled. Desperate to recoup his money, Larson called the Press Your Luck producers in the hope of getting a rematch in a tournament of champions, but naturally they declined. Sadly, the saga doesn't have a happy ending. In 1994, Larson developed throat cancer, and soon after he went missing when he became implicated in an illegal foreign lottery scheme, and the FBI began to search for him. His whereabouts were only discovered after his death in Florida in 1999. He was just 49 years old. His winnings record wasn't broke until 7 years after his death, when in 2008 a contestant on The Price is Right won $147,517. Major Charles Ingram and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was an instant hit with the viewing public when it was first aired in 1998 on the UK ITV network. It was hosted by Chris Tarrant, and at the height of its popularity in 1999, it had huge ratings, with one episode being watched by 19 million people, which was a third of the population of Britain at that time. Contestants had to answer a range of general knowledge questions in a multi-choice format, winning a cash prize for each question answered correctly. As the value of the prize increased, then the questions became harder. Contestants were also given 3 lifelines during the game: Ask the Audience, Phone a Friend, and 50-50. The first round consisted of a fastest finger first game where 8 contestants played off against one another, for a chance to play for the £1 million prize. On the 9th of September 2001, Major Charles Ingram won his fastest finger first round and sat in the hot seat with his wife Diana sitting in the audience. Diana had already appeared on the show just 6 months earlier and won £32,000. But not content with that win, her husband had applied as well and also won a place on the series. In preparation for his appearance, Ingram had made himself a faster finger first machine at home and had practiced every day. Ingram was an educated man who had attended a private boarding school and trained at Sandhurst College for the British Army, and rose through the ranks to become a major in the Royal Engineers. However, by the end of his first day on the show, things were not looking that promising. Ingram had only reached the £4,000 mark and had already used 2 of his 3 lifelines. But the following day, he seemed to have something of a resurgence, although his behaviour was noticeably erratic, and throughout the episode he swapped his answers at random. At times offering illogical reasoning for his answers, declaring one of the options definitely wrong, before deciding that it was correct after all. Seemingly against the odds, he climbed up the board until he got to the £1 million question, which was A number 1 followed by 100 zeros is known by what name? Correctly answered Google, and for only the second time in the show's history he won the £1 million. However, despite the headlines and adulation, the show's producers were suspicious, and they refused to pay Ingram the money. They accused him of defrauding Who Wants to Be a Millionaire by having an accomplice in the audience named Tequin Whittock, who with Diana would cough when Ingram said the right answer. Whittock had been a fellow contestant on the show, and after losing fastest finger, he was not supposed to sit in the audience. But the Ingrams had rung him the night before the second show, and it's alleged that this is when the fraudulent scheme was hatched. All 3 contestants were taken to court for conspiracy to cheat the show. Here is the host Chris Tarrant explaining how the fraud was done.
The plan was that Whittock would signal correct answers with a cough.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go for Holbein. I think if I had to guess, and I can, I think I'd take cricket. I'm sure it's a hat. Am I sure? Yeah, hat. It's a hat.
By the time the Major reached the £1 million question, alarm bells were ringing behind the scenes. And now the Major, his wife Diana, and their accomplice Whittock were being monitored closely.
It's worth £1 million.
I'm not sure. However...
Charles, you haven't been sure since question number...
All he needed to do was read through the options and wait for Whittock's coded cough.
I think it's a nanomole.
No cough there.
But it could be a gigabit.
No cough there either.
I don't think it's a megatron.
Neither does Whittock.
And I have to say, I don't think I've heard of a Google.
And there it is. The Major
Google.
now has the £1 million answer.
And by process of elimination, I actually think it's Google, but I don't know what a Google is. So.
And the rest of it is all acting.
I really do think it's a Google.
But you thought it was a nanomole. And you've never heard of a Google. And there's £1 million involved.
I know, but it's not a gigabit, nanomole, and megatron, and there's only 4 of them, so it must be Google.
The stakes are huge, and the Major wants to make one final check.
I'm sure it's Google.
And there it is.
I'm going to play Google. Yeah.
Final answer.
Final answer.
Charles, give me that check. £500,000. You no longer have that. You just won £1 million!
The win was short-lived, and after a thorough investigation, his cheque was cancelled, and all 3 ended up in court and were found guilty of conspiring to cheat the show.
The trial lasted a month, and it took the jury 3.5 days to make up their minds. Both the Ingrams and Whittock were found guilty of procuring an execution of a valuable security by deception. All 3 were given suspended sentences, and Whittock was fined £25,000, whilst the Ingrams were ordered to pay £115,000 in fines and costs. The army forced Ingram to give up his commission of major and resign. On appeal, the Ingram's fines were reduced substantially, with Diana and Ingram having to pay just £5,000 each. Ingram continued to maintain his innocence, stating that he was unable to hear any coughing from the audience, and Chris Tarrant also agreed he didn't hear any coughing during the recorded episode. However, this claim was brought into question when in 2003, the Ingrams were again charged, this time with fraudulently trying to claim £30,000 in insurance money for a burglary at their home. Rodney, Acala and the Dating Game. The Dating Game was first shown on the American network ABC in late 1965. The format usually involved a single woman or bachelorette asking questions of 3 single men or bachelors who were hidden behind a partition. The audience could see them, but the bachelorette couldn't. At the end of the questioning, the woman would choose one of the men to go on a luxury date that was paid for by the show. Sometimes the format switched, and there would be 3 women and 1 man. Other times there were celebrities that would appear on the show to get dates for themselves, or a relative or colleague. Before becoming famous, the likes of Farrah Fawcett, Lindsay Wagner, The Carpenters and Tom Selleck appeared on the show, as well as already known stars such as Michael Jackson, Dusty Springfield and Ron Howard. The questions asked were prepared ahead of the show, and the same question could be asked to each of the contestants. At the end of each show, the winners of the date and the host would blow a kiss to the camera. In 1978, a guy named Rodney Acala was a contestant on the show. The host introduced him as a successful photographer who between takes might be found skydiving or motorcycling. Acala won a date with Cheryl Bradshaw, but she subsequently refused to go out with him because she found him creepy, a decision that possibly saved her life. As unbeknown to the producers of the show, Acala was a serial killer and rapist who had already spent time in jail for the assault and rape of 2 young girls, and was the suspect in a long list of murders. Take a look at his chilling appearance on the show.
Come on, over here.
I am serving you for dinner.
Oh, I'm called the Banana, and I look really good. Peel me.
Say hello to Rodney Acala. Rodney, come on and say hello.
However, despite Cheryl having a lucky escape, it's speculated that the rejection caused him to go on a killing spree, and he murdered at least 3 women soon after his Dating Game appearance. Acala liked to beat, bite, rape, and then strangle his victims. He would choke them until they lost consciousness, before letting them wake up, and then he would begin the whole process again. Experts described him as intelligent and as having a malignant, narcissistic personality, as well as being a psychopath and a sexual sadist. In 1979, he was arrested for the murder of a 12-year-old girl named Robin Samsoe in Los Angeles. He was tried, convicted, and given the death sentence. In 2003, his DNA was found to be a match of the rape and murder of 2 other LA victims, and DNA matches in 2004 led to another 4. Although convicted of only 7 murders, it's believed that he may have killed as many as 130, as after his arrest, hundreds of photographs were found at his home. Some of these were made public, and families came forward to identify their loved ones. Some were still alive, but some had been missing for many years. 109 of these photographs can be seen online in the hope that the public can help the police to identify more potential victims. Without a doubt, Cheryl Bradshaw's instincts about Acala were spot on. Otherwise, she might be remembered today as another one of the Dating Game killer's unfortunate victims. So that's 5 game show scandals that were caught on camera. We hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.